time for another boot battle, this time between two of the more popular casual Chelsea boots. You know, there's like the really pointy toe RM Williams dress Chelseas, and then there's work Chelseas, and both these boots kind of sit in between those, maybe a little bit more towards the work wear and like hiking and outdoorsy look to them. You know, you've got that raised toe, kind of a chunky look rather than a really slim silhouette. So I wanted to compare these two because they're within similar price ranges. You know, you've got well, I guess we just go over the information. So these are the Blundstone 550s. So it's their more premium pair out of the 500 and 550s. They retail for $230. And the way they position this is everything you love about our original Chelsea boot is tuned up to the max for the 550s. All the durability, more comfort, more shock absorption, more places to see. And for the Red Wing Classic Chelsea, these retail for $299. They position it as the Classic Chelsea provides handcrafted comfort in a sleek pull-up silhouette that features premium leather paired with an iconic traction tread outsole. And we've cut both of these apart. This video released last week. This is a lot older video, so you can go watch those. I'll put links to them in the description. So the goal of this video is to help you identify which one you might choose based off of what application. And we're gonna go through all the layers to give you the pros and cons of each and why you might wanna consider one versus the other. And tell you at the end, I guess, which one I prefer and for what reasons as well. So let's start with the outsole and work our way up. So if you look at the Blundstone outsole, this is their TPU outsole, which stands for thermal polyurethane. And it's really similar to rubber, where it has a lot of those same properties. It's grippy, it's fairly long wearing. It's not like a foam, it's a solid consistency all the way through. And the benefits of that is it's fairly lightweight because in the cross section, you can see it's a pretty thin layer of TPU compared to the softer midsole. So it's a little bit lighter weight, but at the same time, that's kind of the con because once you wear through that TPU layer, then you're into that softer foam. And so it's not nearly as durable of an outsole as a solid consistency outsole all the way through, which is exactly what the Red Wing is. Because if you look at this Red Wing, this is just your classic blown rubber wedge. It's modeled after the Vibram Christie wedge. And the benefits of this is you get a lot more wear before you wear through and really destroy the boot. You have a little bit more, I think they're a little bit more grippy than the TPU because it is rubber, and for whatever reason, rubber seems to be a little bit more grippy. And the cons of this though is it's a little bit heavier. You've got a lot more substance that you're carrying around that needs to be heavy duty rather than just that thin layer on the bottom of the TPU outsole of the Blundstones. Which do I prefer and for what reason? I think if you're working or you're gonna be in harsher environments, you might wanna go with the wedge just because you have a lot more wear potential out of it. If you're just going for comfort and you're going for the look, the TPU is a pretty solid outsole as long as you're not really beating it up. Then if we go to the next layer up, which would be technically the midsole, the Blundstone has a polyurethane midsole, which is a really soft foam. If I get my durometer tester out, I'll tell you what it is. Fortunately, it's still on from last time I used it. Comes in at a 42 Shore A, so pretty soft compared to if we just take a measurement of this wedge, the wedge is a 50 Shore A, where more or less, you know, so the midsole of the Blundstone is softer than the outsole of the Red Wing, so that's gonna give you a little bit more squish underfoot, but I wouldn't even really consider that the outsole, the midsole for the Red Wing. A lot of people would more consider the cork filling the midsole of this boot. And so what is that material? Well, it's all cork all the way through. Benefits of cork is it gives you a little more shock absorption compared to like a leather filling on the inside. It gives you a little bit more volume to compress underneath of your foot to give you that footprint inside of your boot. And it's a natural material, so it doesn't stink as much. It seems to last pretty long time. The cons of this style of filling material are that occasionally it can lump up and dislodge if you really beat your boots up. It can bottom out over time. But it's kind of the industry standard for higher quality traditionally made boots. And so they're kind of two different purposes. You know, this is where they start to deviate because this is a traditionally made boot versus the Blundstones are a lot more of a modern made boot with direct injected construction. So when it comes to the midsole, if you want initial comfort and a lot of squish underfoot, the Blundstone is going to be the choice for you. It's going to be a little bit more comfortable standing around all day. Is it going to be that much more comfortable than the Red Wings? It might not be because of some of the layers above what we're going to talk about here in a sec. For the Red Wings, you might consider this if you like the traditionally built shoes and boots. If you like to have that footprint inside of your boot, this is going to compress a lot more. And speaking of the construction, the Red Wings are resoleable, where the cobbler can take off this outsole, and it should be all encapsulated on the inside of this boot with this rubber slip sole, this dark layer here. But if they do have to go in there and the cork is dislodged, it is possible to do that. So if you do have any of those issues with the cork, it's easy for a cobbler to fix. Versus the Blundstones, because it's that direct injected construction, cobblers can fix this boot. You know, it's not out of the possibility of, or the talent of cobblers. It's just, it's a lot of work to sand it down, remove all those layers because it's direct injected, where the upper of the boot is put into a mold, and then liquid hot polyurethane is pumped into this, and it's aerated, and then it cures while it's fusing to the entire boot. So every nook and cranny and crevice is filled with this polyurethane. And so it's a lot harder for cobblers to resole compared to a traditionally Goodyear welted construction like the Red Wings. So if you're just looking for a one-time use boot, the Blundstones are a little bit cheaper, and if you're not gonna get them resoled and they're more comfortable, you might go that direction. But if you like the resolability and you like that longevity and the idea of putting on several outsoles and really getting these boots to last as long as possible, you'll be able to resole these a few times without running into any issues. Where this Red Wing starts to deviate from the rest of the Red Wings is the next layer up, because both of these boots share the same insole material, which is fiberboard. And fiberboard is a leather substitute. It acts a lot like leather. It has the fiber structure of almost like a really thick piece of paper. It's not quite as strong as interlaced as leather, but it still gives you some solid properties, and you see it in a lot of boots under $300 because it's a little bit more affordable. It's a lot easier to work with in mass production, and it's just easier to break in for a lot of people. And so for an easy to break in comfortable boot, a lot of times brands lean towards the fiberboard. But the downside of that is, like we talked about, when it comes to getting the longevity out of the Red Wings, it's just never gonna be quite as strong as that fat slab of vegetable tan leather that Red Wing is known for the majority of their heritage boots. The downside of that really thick slab of veg tan is it's not gonna be quite as soft underfoot. It's gonna take a lot longer to break in. And so that's why both of these boots are a really good casual boot to break in really quick and really get a comfortable boot right off the bat. Which is gonna be more comfortable initially? The Blundstones, because in the Blundstones you have, gotta steal my own pair. In the Blundstones, you have that removable insole that has a little patch of pour-on the heel, and then if you look at the heel of the fiberboard, there's a little cutout where they put more pour-on in that heel. So it's just gonna be a little softer underfoot initially, but what makes this Red Wing different than a lot of the other Red Wings, once again, is they've foregone that really heavy slab of leather, all that, and they've made this a lot more of a comfortable boot. Because above that fiberboard, instead of a removable insole like the Blundstones, they've got a permanent insole with a pour-on type foam topped with a what looks like a veg tan leather, but you can see that blue cross section, so it's just a chrome tan leather. But it's gonna give you a unique effect that's kind of a hybrid between these, the direct injected style construction and the more traditional construction, because it kind of meets in the middle, because you've got some amount of leather that's gonna compress, you've got that fiberboard that's gonna compress, but at the same time you have some foam that's gonna give you a little bit of give, and it's gonna be a lot more comfortable initially. And when I first saw this style of construction come out from Red Wing, you know, I was pretty concerned, because I was like, I don't know if Red Wings, are they switching all their boots to this? I like the traditional way of doing it. I like how they're one of the only American brands that's still making boots under $400 that are doing this in the right way. And it seems like they're really only a few of their boots are switching to this construction. I don't think it's a sign of the death of Red Wing like that thumbnail might have said. I think what they've done is made an introductory boot that is comfortable right off the bat, so that you can get into a pair of Red Wings, and if you really want that hard break-in, you've already learned some of the upper and how hard it can be and how to care for them and the feel of a traditionally made boot. And I've softened my stance quite a bit on this construction from Red Wing from my initial reaction to it a year or two ago. So now that we've covered the full sole construction, which one's gonna be more comfortable right off the bat? Blundstones. Which one's gonna be more comfortable for the long run? Probably Blundstone still. Which one's gonna be most durable? The Red Wing sole construction is going to be more durable. Which one can you get the most longevity out of? The Red Wing. And which one's going to be the most supportive? Probably Red Wing again. And I'm trying to think if there's any other questions that you guys might have about the sole construction. And which would I prefer if I were to buy one of these boots? Well, I've got a pair of Blundstones and I really like them. It surprised me how often I wear them, just because of how easy they are to put on and how comfortable they are. So if I were to choose one, I would probably go with the Red Wings, because I think it's a really nice combination of the two, but if I was on a budget, I don't think there's enough of a difference between the two that I would go with the Red Wings over top of the Blundstones if I was on a budget. So budget-minded, I'd probably go with the Blundstones. But now if we look at what we just talked about, that upper, that is a big difference between these two boots, and part of why I think Red Wing has gone with this softer underfoot construction is the Red Wing leather is notoriously tough. It's high quality leather, it's really good, and they've really mastered this art of this really beautiful pull-up that they have in their leather, because they've left the core of the leather blue so that you get these really bright pops of lighter undertones. They own the tannery. It's a nice 2.5 millimeter thick leather. It's usually like a full grain or a slightly buff surface. It's like basically a waxed nubuck. And they've essentially set the industry standard for leather quality for this price range. And you compare that to the Blundstones, where that's one of the bigger issues I have with Blundstone, is I just don't feel like they use the highest quality leathers. You know, it's not bad leather by any means. You know, especially these 550s, it is a little more saturated than the 500s. The 500 seems to be a little dry and empty on the inside of the leather. And you can make this leather higher quality by basically stuffing it yourself and conditioning it and keeping the leather, those leather fibers on the inside of the leather cross section lubricated and moving well without breaking and causing splits. But between the two, the Red Wing is clearly a better leather. And as you wear the Blundstones, the problem is, because this is a more empty leather, you have this issue where the leather starts sloughing off and it starts separating, and part of that is because it's $70 cheaper than the Red Wings. You know, it's a $230 boot, and it's honestly about on par for that price range for this leather, but it's just not nearly as good as the Red Wings at a $70 premium above Blundstones. Which of the leather is going to last longer? Probably the Blundstone. Is it a huge enough margin to pay $70 extra solely for a better leather? Unless you just like the look of the leather, I don't think it's $70 more durable, and I think you could maintain the Blundstones just fine within range of the Red Wings if you didn't take care of them. But what I'm trying to say is it kind of comes down to if you take care of your leather, because if you really just trash your Red Wing leather and you really take care of your Blundstone leather, you can get the Blundstone leather to outlast Red Wing. So it almost matters more how you take care of it than anything. So if you don't want to take care of your boots, you might want to go with the Red Wings. And then if we look at the linings of these two boots, they're fairly similar. You know, both of them have a leather lining up the shaft of the boot. They're around the same quality of leather. And where the lining really differentiates is in the toe of the boot, where the Red Wing has a cotton drill. So it's similar to canvas, where it has that same coarse texture and it's fairly durable, but it's just weaved in a slightly different way. And you compare that to the Blundstones, it's just kind of a felted material. I don't believe it's wool. I think it's just like a polyester felted material. Out of the two of them, which is a higher quality? I think the cotton drill is, which is gonna last longer, probably the Red Wings with the cotton drill. Which would I prefer? Red Wing. But is there issues with having this felted material? I really haven't seen a lot of people having problems with wearing through this, but I could see how that could happen over time, and you could have a flap on the inside. But honestly, you could do it to either of these depending on how you wear the boots. But I think on the whole, the cotton drill is a better material. So now that we've gone through all the materials, which is the better boot overall, regardless of the price? I think the Red Wing is a better boot. It's gonna be close in comfort. It's gonna be more durable. You got higher quality materials, but it's $70 more. Per dollar, which boot are you going to get more wears out of? You still might get more out of the Red Wings if you take care of them. But when it comes to comfort per dollar, I think your money's a little bit better spent on the Blundstones. The Blundstones are stinking comfortable. There's a reason I always wear them. It's because they're so comfortable. And so comfort for a dollar, you might go with the Blundstones. So what about some applications? If you're looking for a work boot version of a Chelsea and you want the heritage style, I'd do the Red Wings. If you're wanting something just to kick around in and throw in the back of your truck, or if you're going camping or whatever, the Blundstones are lightweight and they're just really popular with that outdoor scene. When it comes to the style, that kind of falls along with that. It seems like obviously the Red Wings are a lot more of a workwear style, more of that rugged Carhartt style, versus Blundstones are a lot more of that, not granola style, but that shade of outdoorsy. And so are both these shoes worth the money? Are they overpriced? Are they underpriced? Right on price? I honestly think both of them are a little bit overpriced, but not like a crazy amount. You know, not enough to really complain about. Maybe 20 bucks, 20 or 30 bucks compared to the rest of the boots on the market. But you got to keep in mind, Red Wings are made in the United States, and kind of a counterpoint to that is they have other boots built like this with the veg tan insole that are the same price. And so really what you're paying for with the Red Wings is more comfort and initial comfort, and what you're paying for in the Blundstones is even more initial comfort and long-term comfort. And if you compare it to the rest of the heritage boots that have all that leather on the inside and all the different counter materials, you could say it's a little bit overpriced, but once again, not more than like 20 or 30 bucks in my opinion. I think that covers everything we need to cover. I think it gives you a lot of good information on which you might want and for what reason. I think you can't really go wrong with either of these boots. I'll put links in the description to both of these, and let me know what you thought of this video, what you want us to cover, what information you didn't need, what other boot battles and comparisons and showdowns you want us to do, because these are fun to do. It's just a quick, easy sit down and I just get to ramble and talk about stuff that I like. So thank you guys for supporting these Rose Anvil 2 videos, and thank you for supporting the whole brand and the business and everything that we're doing. It means a lot to me and all the guys that work for us. So thank you guys. See ya.